Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we talk with Kansas Secretary of Agriculture Mike Beam. He's been on the job about a year now, and we caught up with him a couple of weeks ago, and we get a State of Agriculture in Kansas report and the latest with hemp in the sunflower state. We'll also have reports from the Kansas Soybean Commission and Kansas Department of Agriculture, along with our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, KFB.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. In agricultural news from agview.net, Empirical Foods, based in Dakota Dunes, South Dakota, announcing it will open a new ground beef facility in Garden City. Once fully operational, it's expected to more than double the company's ground beef production and employ around 300 people. The facility is Empirical Foods' largest single investment in the company's 40-year history and will supplement its South Sioux City, Nebraska location. The groundbreaking for the state-of-the-art facility will take place during the first quarter of this year, and it's expected to be complete between 2022 and 2023. EPA's preliminary interim decision for atrazine has been released, and the Kansas Corn Grower Association leaders encouraged by the language in the PID. It sets the aquatic ecosystem level of concern for atrazine at a reasonable level. The decision supports EPA's commitment to use credible scientific research and to set reasonable ecological levels of concern for atrazine. Kansas Corn has been active in the triazine issue since the mid-1990s and a founding member of the Triazine Network, a diverse national coalition of growers of crops ranging from corn to sorghum to Christmas trees and citrus, who all have a stake in science-based regulatory decisions regarding atrazine and other atrazine herbicides. Corn Grower CEO Greg Krisick serves the Triazine Network Steering Committee. And Kansas Farm Bureau recognizing sesquicentennial farms in conjunction with its annual Century Farm program. Century Farm program honors farms with owners or operators related to the original farm owner-operator for 100 years by December 31st of this year. The sesquicentennial farm will recognize those that go beyond those farms, the same family, for 150 years. Now, the deadline for consideration to be part of the 2020 programs is May 15th. Complete details for qualifications and applications for both programs obtained at your county Farm Bureau offices across Kansas or at kfb.org. And USDA recently issued a proposed rule to reapportion the beef checkoff program's Cattlemen's Beef Board. RCAF says the proposed rule reveals importers control more cattle inventories than any other state in the U.S. except Texas. To make its calculations and regarding to who controls domestic cattle inventories, RCAF says USDA counts imported live cattle and converts the imported beef into a live cattle equivalent. Importers now control about 6.9 million cattle in the U.S. market. Only the state of Texas, which controls about 12.6 million cattle, exceeds the importers' control. The organization says the combination of cattle and beef imports represents the largest agricultural commodities imported from Canada and Mexico. Now, USDA data shows that U.S. imports $4.1 billion in cattle and beef from Canada and Mexico in 2018. RCAF CEO Bill Bullard claims the importers' dominant control of the cattle inventory affords them extraordinary influence on U.S. lawmakers, and adding cattle and beef importers are opposed to mandatory country of origin labeling because they don't want consumers to know where the origins of the cheaper sourced products come from. So more on these and other stories online at agview.net. Stay with us. We'll have more after these words. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
And joining us now is the Kansas Secretary of Agriculture, our friend Mike Beam, who hails from Jewell County. And this has been something we've been trying to work on for a long time, that formal sit-in, if you will. We have to go back to KLA to find you. But Mike, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's always good to visit with you.
All right, so let's talk about 2019, kind of the state of agriculture in Kansas. This is going to be one that there's going to be that little star there of something that we're going to kind of go back and learned a lot of lessons this year.
Well, yes, and I'll have to say, I heard within even the last few days that people started saying to themselves this winter even that I'll be glad when 2019 is over. So it's been rough and challenging. There's been some high points, but weather-related challenges, but people in agriculture, they're always looking for the next year because they know it's a long-term business. And I think folks had, in some parts of the state had a good harvest. The cattle market's shown some strength here in the last few weeks, and people are maybe going towards closing out 2019 and a little bit more positive and anxious to get to 2020.
I think that's it. It was interesting as we kind of look back at some of the highlights of 2019, and in the spring, Mother Nature just gave us a lot of gifts. We were mid-year in prime growing conditions. We were a full soil moisture profile, which was something we hadn't seen. I don't know, in my lifetime we'd ever seen that. And so, yeah. But we ended up the year kind of, as I told a lot of folks, Southwest Kansas is back to being Southwest Kansas.
It's drouthy, and I've even heard people in central Kansas say we could sure use some moisture. But you're right, there was a time frame this spring where there wasn't a speck of drought on the USDA drought monitor map, and it's been a long time since we could look at that and not see a drought somewhere.
And the grass this year for the cattle, tremendous. The Flint Hills were just tremendous this year.
Oh, grass. We've grown a lot of grass, and I've reminded folks that, when we had some of those devastating wildfires in the late winters, it's following a year like we've had this year. And fortunately, before those high winds of recent high winds, we had a little bit of moisture in areas. But that's something we're going to have to be on guard on all winter long is if we get really dry conditions, the fuel load is there. And so we'll have to be cautious and be prepared.
And one of the things that you bring as the secretary is you, for many years, led the effort in bringing the parties together when it comes to some of our seasonal burning. And we continue to learn more and more about all that. Are you still somewhat involved in keeping the parties kind of all talking?
I'm still kind of scooting up to the table. That's the Department of Health and Environment's
right.
primary responsibility. But, they've been very inclusive. And you're right. It's... prescribed burning is I think there's more and more acceptance every year, not just within agriculture, but from the community as a whole, as to prescribed burning is a good thing. And if it was probably utilized more in the West and in higher population centers of this country, that the wildfires wouldn't be near as devastating. So we'll have to keep on that. acknowledging that, certain days, certain time frames with the wind in the right or wrong direction, it can cause some air quality issues for more highly populated areas. And we're going to, hopefully those will be minimal, but it'll always be a challenge.
Sure. Mike Beam, the Kansas Secretary of Agriculture, is joining us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families and rural Kansas for more than 100 years, and we're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau health plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Mike Beam is the Kansas Secretary of Agriculture joining us now, and we caught up with him at the KLA meeting in Wichita. And Mike, an issue as we kind of look at 2019, hemp kind of finally came full force in a sense into Kansas. You've been now in the position a little bit over a year, and that's probably been one of your things that you probably have learned an awful lot. But we talk about building plans, and I think, is that kind of where we are right now? You working with the stakeholders to kind of move forward?
Yes. I wish I had paid closer attention in the 2018 legislative session, but the legislature set forth a program for research hemp, which is allowed by Congress or by the Farm Bill of 2014. So the folks at the Department of Ag worked overtime to get regulations in place and licenses, accepting licenses and processing that. So we've just completed 2019 as the first year of hemp under research. About 200 growers. We lost some folks because seed may not have been available. Planting conditions like other crops were delayed. So we just end up the second round of applications. We've got about 250 growers, again, are licensed for research project in 2020. In the meantime, the 2018 Farm Bill set forth guidelines for commercial hemp production with less restrictions. And they just issued their regulations a few weeks ago. So we'll probably transition into a commercial program, and hopefully it'll be a good opportunity for growers, but also maybe some opportunities for processing in this state.
So as it looks right now, since USDA did release kind of that framework, Kansas and other states have to have their own plan, right? And so does USDA supersede, or is it if what Kansas comes up with, submits, gets approved, it's all, cross T's and I's for what Kansas wants? I guess does Kansas kind of have their way they can set it up within a parameter?
Yes, what we've been waiting on is the parameters that USDA says, okay, states, you can have commercial production if we authorize or approve your plan. So we hope to submit a plan here probably around the first of the year that we think will meet the guidelines that USDA has had. And fortunately, there weren't that many surprises, and our research program is fairly consistent with the requirements, primarily testing of the product before it's harvested. So, we should submit a program application in early 2020 in anticipation that growers in 2020 will be able to go for commercial with less requirements, but still testing in the field.
So you're expecting that if it gets submitted early in 2020, it'll get approved. So, because I believe planting time is late March, April, May. Is that kind of right?
It's about that same time as corn.
Okay.
But we would have some people in a greenhouse situation that might want to go sooner. So those who have applied for our application for November 30th under the research, okay, we're going to roll those right into the commercial program once we get approved. Okay. So it hopefully be up and going.
All right. This will be a developing story, so very interesting. All right, thanks.
Look forward to it.
Mike Beam, who is the Secretary of Agriculture for the state of Kansas, has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. The annual Kansas Soybean Yield and Value Contests recognize outstanding farmers, provide fun incentives for them to improve, and allow the Kansas Soybean Association, with checkoff funding from the Kansas Soybean Commission, to share what participants learn to benefit all soybean farmers. This year's yield contest included 25 entries. The 25 prize winners had verified yields averaging 77.2 bushels per acre. The value contest had 18 entries. For their protein and oil contents, the top three averaged about 62 cents, or 6.7%, in increased value over the $9.24 base cash price. Larmar Incorporated Robinson led the dryland division with a no-till entry of 94.01 bushels. Love and Love Farms Montezuma topped the irrigated division with a no-till entry that made 88.82 bushels per acre. Longnecker Farm, Abilene, won the value contest with 66 cents per bushel of increased value. The winners received their prizes at the Kansas Soybean Expo, January 8 in Topeka. In each district, first place won $300, second $200, and third $100. The highest dryland and irrigated yields in the contest each earned $1,000. Complete results are at kansassoybeans.org/contests on the web.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers, farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Kansans have a new choice for Medicare supplement insurance plans. With Medicare supplement insurance plans from Kansas Farm Bureau, you have access to 4 levels of coverage, affordable rates, and service from an organization that's served Kansans for more than 100 years. For more information on Kansas Farm Bureau Medicare supplement plans, including rates and to apply, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Protecting animal health is a critical part of the mission of the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Animal agriculture is a significant part of the Kansas economy and therefore of critical importance not only to the agriculture industry, but to the whole state. That's why the Kansas Department of Agriculture makes it a priority to lead the nation in foreign animal disease planning, training, and exercising. In December, KDA led a 2-day functional exercise to practice the state's agriculture emergency response plan. This year's exercise, named Fortify, was preceded by a tabletop exercise and then a day of information and drills. The functional exercise saw the state's incident management team activated to play out an animal disease scenario. KDA's policy group and incident management team developed policies and operational plans and worked to provide factual, transparent public information and education to the public and media, including a phone bank to receive calls from citizens who would be affected by an incident. Hundreds of injects tested and validated responses from more than 160 players from 10 states and territories, 3 Kansas counties, 10 state and federal agencies, and 7 ag industry groups. Responding to a foreign animal disease will require cooperation among all these entities in order to stop the spread of the disease and enable the industry to get back to business as quickly as possible. These annual exercises have been instrumental in expanding the state's response plan and honing details based on new challenges and experiences each year. This continual improvement of the animal disease response plan supports the investment Kansas has made in sustaining the rigorous practice via the full-scale exercise. We are committed to continuing our efforts to protect farmers, ranchers, and agribusinesses across the state of Kansas.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device, news and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Two trade deals that will have a positive impact on U.S. beef producers went into effect January 1st. These agreements will bring new opportunities and better access to Japan and the European Union, 2 major export markets for the U.S. The new deal with Japan immediately lowered the tariff on U.S. beef from 38.5% to 26.6%, and it will eventually drop to 9%. This puts the U.S. on a level playing field with other countries that export to Japan under the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The trade agreement with the EU establishes a duty-free quota for high-quality U.S. beef from non-hormone treated cattle. Under the terms of this agreement, the U.S. Pacific annual quota will increase from 18,500 metric tons in the first year to 35,000 metric tons in year 7. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative estimates that this quota will increase annual U.S. beef sales in Europe from $150 million to $420 million. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association played an integral role in building support for increased access to these two countries. The organization will continue its efforts to improve access to lucrative international markets like China and push for final approval of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement as soon as possible in 2020.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net.
Hey guys, Colette here with Paragon Ag Advisors. The new year has given the market something to talk about. From the signing of the trade deal with China next week to the USDA report to the strike on Iran, there have certainly been headlines to trade on. However, we're still talking about basis. We started talking about the firm basis back before harvest. Throughout harvest and even still, basis remains solid. In many areas, basis is trading stronger than historical averages. If you don't track basis, now is the time to start, as there are many ways to use basis to your advantage. Another thing we're talking about here is the US dollar. While the US dollar has been strong, it has been showing signs of weakness since October. A strong dollar does not necessarily help our foreign trade, as a strong dollar makes our exported goods more expensive to consumers in other countries. Demand has been a huge factor in talks surrounding the markets, trade deal, and revenue. The dollar is certainly something to keep your eye on this election year, especially as we establish demand with foreign countries. If you need help understanding basis or demand, or haven't gotten started on your marketing for 2020, please give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Colette at Paragon, and I hope you guys have a prosperous new year.
Well, that's this week's program. Be social with us. KansasAgReport.net and on Facebook and Twitter. Next week, a conversation with Randy Block, CEO of Cattle Facts. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net.